Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Outdoor with TJ. TJ, behind the camera is Liam. We're kind of out here at Hominy Lake here in Oklahoma. It's been kind of a long season, a long summer, been hot, so fishing game hasn't been that great. We haven't really caught much this year. In the last couple months, it seems like everything. So right now we're kind of just trying out everything. From what I've been told, it depends on like the color of the lure, the brightness, not brightness, sorry, the clearness of the water. They always say the clearer the water you want to have, like, I remember at clear the water you want more natural colors like bluegill or shad colors and stuff like that, like your greens, chartreuse, stuff like that. Usually your darker waters, which is amazing, is you want kind of like your darker colors. Usually this is Lunker Log by Guggen Squad, and it's blue and black flake. I've caught a lot of fish on these. Today, I'm kind of teaching Liam a few things about how to fish with new lures. He's kind of new to the fishing with lure games and stuff. So we got what we got set up right now is called a Wacky rig. You can buy these. There's several different kinds. This is a Wacky rig hook with a weed guard on it. You can buy these off of Amazon. You can buy them off of Guggen Squad. You can buy them pretty much anywhere. But all you do is you take your hook, you tie it on, of course. I always use a Palomar knot. Kind of move that weed guard. What you do to rig a Wacky rig, which is basically usually on a lighter combo than a bait caster. So I've got it on his little open bail here, and it is a lighter combo. Usually they don't, I've not seen them personally catch like the big bass like you would on a bait caster, but they do. You never know what's going to bite whenever you're fishing. So in order to rig it up, like I said, you tie it on. It's a weightless rig. You don't add it because the hook itself has kind of a little bit of weight to it. And then the added of the whatever soft plastic I'm using a Lunker Log, but I have, if you look down here, I've got tons of other soft plastics that I could throw on there. All you do is to rig a Wacky rig, when you tie it on, it's really easy. You take the hook, and what you do is you want this to be the hook to right in the middle of that. So what I always do is I kind of bend it up, where it meets, and then I put my finger like right in the middle. So that's where I want the hook to go through. So just turn it over, kind of move that weed guard out of the way a little bit and stick it right through the middle, just like that. So when it goes through the water, like I said, this is a weightless type rig, so you don't put any more weights on it because you kind of want this just to float through the water. You're wanting that action to go through that water. When it hits the water, it's kind of like that, and kind of gets that like rubber pencil type thing going. So whenever it hits that water and it goes down, it just starts kind of moving like a Wacky rig. It looks all wacky, so these kind of like wave up and down and stuff like that, and amazingly enough, bass really love that. Like I said, it depends on location. When it gets hot like it has been this summer in Oklahoma, the bass are usually deeper, but in the evening and stuff, they do come a little bit shallower just to eat, because that's usually where a lot of your bait fish are. We also have a catfish pole in the water, if you want to turn around and show them. The catfish pole, it's got a little bluegill on it. Now, I don't know, being this close to the shore or anything like that, there's going to be many catfish around here, but also you got to remember it's whatever down there. So there's not bluegill, there's bass, there's gar, there's crappie that amazingly enough probably will be big enough to eat the little perch that we have on there. But it is a decent sized hook, so we're hoping for a catfish so we can take it home and fillet it. But that's all you do with the Wacky rig. And like I said, when you cast it out there, don't be so quick to retrieve it, especially during the hotness of summer, because those bass, especially when the bite is really hard, you want them to sit there and you want it to kind of just wave in their face, kind of like calling them over, like, hey, come and take a bite, So that's the whole thing, is that action is what really gets their look. So and it attracts the fish. Like I said, the colors do help. Knowing the locations, any kind of cover that you might see, like if you kind of pan around, if you look out here on the lake, it's kind of sparse, but there is cover underneath the water that I'm trying to find here. Like over in the corner over here, you do have like some man-made cover. It's not necessarily cover, it's just like some pipes and stuff that have been put in the water to measure the depth of the water. But fish love to get around those hides and stuff where they think they're going to be hidden, and it's cooler. Plus they kind of ambush their prey, smaller bait fish, shad, you know, shiners, all that stuff like that. So I mean, you saw out here there was some like rocks. I know casting into rocks really sucks. Trust me, I snap off more than I would love to admit on this when I cast in them when there's rocks. But I will say some of the biggest bass that I've caught are next to rocks and down trees in the water, stuff like that. But this is just one of the many, like whenever you're beginning and you want to learn this one, you can also, like I said, use on light. You always want to use these kind of on lighter rigs. So I mean, it's a weightless rig. You don't have to worry about tying on a whole bunch of weights or anything like that. There's no real special anything to it. That, and amazingly enough, will catch a crap load of fish all year round. And it's just something easy if you want to sit down for a minute and just kind of leisurely cast it. When you cast it, don't be so quick to retrieve it, because when it gets in that water, you want it to float down to the bottom. And sometimes when it gets to the bottom, you kind of want to just bump it a little bit, because with it having that weed guard on there, any weeds in there, now I'm not saying, they always say it's called a weed guard and they call these weedless. And I'm just saying, if you have thick weeds or, you know, cattails or something like that in the water, you can still get caught. Don't kid yourself. But it will help a lot as it kind of moves through them. And this one, whenever you cast it out, like I'll show you, you know, whenever you, like I said, don't be too quick on the retrieve, because you want this to float when it casts out, and you just sit there and wait. You can close the bail, you don't have to close the bail. I can go ahead and close it because that's as far as I was going to go, but I'm just letting it sink to the bottom and letting those little fins, if you want to say, kind of look like a little worm going down through, kind of like a wounded worm, something like that. When you go to retrieve, like I said, don't be too quick on the retrieve. So, you know, you kind of, you know, just kind of like you're fishing with a worm and stuff like that. When you kind of tighten up the slack a little bit, then you kind of just pop it a little time. That's all you do. And then just let it sink back down to the bottom. And then you kind of pop it again. And usually, like I said, the Wacky rig is a really good to have in your arsenal. It's really inexpensive. Most of the stuff that you buy for fishing and stuff like that is pretty inexpensive anyway. But I mean, it's one of those go-tos when, you know, you've thrown out every lipless crankbait that you have or spinner bait and you're just not getting any bite. It doesn't hurt to try it. Like I said, this one is a leisure kind of thing, and fishing is a leisure sport anyway. Best thing I can tell you is don't get mad if you don't get bites. There's going to be plenty of days out there when you're not going to get a bite. It's going to be a long day, but hey, you're out in nature. Yes, the mosquitoes might be biting. Trust me, they suck. I understand. We're getting eat up ourselves. We forgot the bug spray, Liam. But it's just one of those things. You know, you just got to keep trying. You know, don't give up. I mean, regardless, you know, you may have a dry couple months like we have where you don't catch much fish except for perch. Perch are really easy. All you need is a hook and a worm, a real worm. Yeah. Amazing enough, they might get caught on and you can get some little grubs. Those little grubs for crappie and stuff also work for perch. Don't feel bad. And, you know, I used to hate catching nothing but perch, but amazingly enough, they can fight. They're good little fighters when it comes to it. But when you're going for big bass and stuff like that, it's good to have out here. You just kind of leisurely, you know, you don't want to move it too much. Kind of like with a lot of your soft plastics and stuff like that, you don't really want to move them, especially when the bite is low and it's really hot. They're kind of inactive whenever the fish and stuff like that are kind of inactive. You don't necessarily want to, it doesn't take too much motion, because too much motion on the worm and the bait and stuff like that on the bottom can also spook them if they're not really into it. You're kind of wanting to entice them. So if you get it down there in front of them, you just let it sit. And then you just every so often pop your rod, pop your line, and pop your bait off the bottom and stuff like that, and let them see, hey, there's something moving. Maybe I'll eat it. You know, you're just trying to entice them. But the Wacky rig is really like, it's so simple that that's the beauty of it. It's so simple and it catches so many fish. It's unreal. That and another thing that you could also catch is also a Ned rig, kind of the same thing. Now you can rig your own Ned rigs, which you can look those up. I actually buy there are Ned rig hooks, which like I've said before, just like with Wacky rigs, you can buy the specific hooks and stuff like that and set up for them from Guggen Squad. You can buy them from Amazon, probably even eBay, Temu, Wish.com. Heck, I don't know. You can probably anywhere you can buy stuff. There's probably some company out there that has either a Wacky rig set, a Ned rig. Ned rigs, now, like I said, these are Guggen Squads, and I have caught some fish on these. These are specific Ned rig sets. Now, it's kind of like the same thing as a Wacky rig. I don't have any of those. I broke off my last one. Go me. These are all Wacky rig sets, but I did have some Ned rigs from Guggen Squad in here, and it's kind of like this hook, except for it's a straight shank hook instead of a wide gap hook. This is more of a wide gap hook, single, 1/0 hook, but it's more of a straight shank hook, and you kind of rig this just like you would a grub. You're on there, and in the back of this thing, this is the head and the tail. I don't know if you can really hear that, but there's some little rattles in there. And it's kind of the same thing with the Wacky rig, with the Ned rig. You kind of let it sink to the bottom, and you just pop it every once in a while just to move it, and that sound and everything like that. Now, like I said before, I'm not sponsored by Guggen Squad or anything like that. It's just that I have tried a ton of their baits and have come up really lucky with catching fish and stuff. So I still will buy off-brand, but I do like buying Guggen baits, and they have put a lot of technology and a lot of thought into their baits. And the Ned rig just came out, I think, last year, the year before, and they put a lot of time and energy and thought into that one, where the more, because fish are not only attracted by sight but also sound, and 9 times out of 10 it's the sound that they hear before they even know. That's how they're alerted to something is there. The splash in the water, hey, something just entered the water, or if they're too far away and they happen to be swimming closer, they hear that Ned rig, that rattle or something like that, or the wake of a spinner bait, or anything like that. It could just something to attract them, and the sound really goes really well. And like I said, when you're fishing the Ned rigs or the Wacky rigs, you don't get in a hurry, especially when that's the one thing I've heard a lot of YouTubers and a lot of fishermen say, period, anyway, is especially during the summer, don't get in a big hurry. You want to take your time, let that bait sink to the bottom, because that's where the fish are during the summer. It is hot, so they're down deep. They only come up now. It has been the last 3 or 4 days here in Oklahoma has been up in the 80s instead of the hundreds and the 90s, which is amazing. Now I will say this, that doesn't necessarily mean that the temperature of the water has come up, gone down a little bit, so the fish would come up more shallow. In the evening they might, just because there's not as much sun coverage and stuff. So, but all I can say really is just you got to get out there and try. I mean, the thing about it is, you don't get upset if you don't get a bite. Just enjoy being out there. I understand that you spend time out there and you want to catch fish, especially like we do. We want to eat those fish, but don't get mad about it. There's no reason to get mad about not catching a fish, but it'll happen, and don't think it won't. You just gotta keep trying. So I understand there's probably some stuff that I haven't gone over before. I know that my first video said fishing tips for beginners, and I know there's probably a lot of stuff that I left out. If there is, let me know. Put it in the comment section if there's something you guys specifically want to know. And if I do not know the answer, trust me, I will find out. I will ask, and I will find the answer for you, and I will cover it in any future videos. And hopefully we'll get some videos of me catching some fish and Liam catching some fish, and especially this fall and winter when we go hunting. We're definitely going to be pulling. We got our new cameras out. We're getting some new cameras. We're going to be taking out. I may shoot a video next Wednesday. Me and my cohort here, Liam, hunting buddy and fishing buddy, we are probably going to be going up to our hunting grounds next week and setting trail cameras and putting out some deer feed. So setting up our blinds and everything like that, getting ready for it, because If you guys don't know, you want to set that out at least a couple weeks, if not a month or two ahead of time, for the deer to get used to your scent and stuff like that, and the scent to be off your stuff when you go hunting. So, if I don't film any videos between now and then, catch us back next week when we go out there to set up all that stuff, and we will hit you next time. Like and subscribe, guys.